What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Wednesday night. It's time for Mythic Conversations, episode 152. Thank you all very much for tuning in, whether you are here live and you're going to be actually part of this Mythic conversation, or whether you're catching the replay. Thank you very much for checking out the weekly Legion show, where we talk about all things going on in the world of Four Horsemen Studios. Of course, as always, I am your host, Sir Girard. I am a Mythic Legions, a Cosmic Legions, a Figure Obscura, a collector and customizer. Also has the distinct privilege of being the director of sales and marketing for Four Horsemen Studios. Now, tonight, I thought, there's a lot going on in the world of Legions. This is the final week for the Cosmic Legions Ox Crew Wave. I thought to myself, I want to bring on somebody who's going to have some really incredible insights into these toys. Someone who's going to help us carry a really smart, intelligent conversation, who's going to bring something to the show that's never been here before. And then I said, you know what? I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to bring on somebody who I love to talk to, and we're going to have a great time. Everybody, please welcome Pelvicus himself, Mr. Travis Bolles. Travis, thank you for joining Mythic Conversations.
Thank you for having me.
So, having you, can you believe that I am at 152 episodes and you've never actually been on my show?
Man, I feel like I've been on your show before.
I don't think you have.
Yeah, that probably is right. But when I sit and watch your show, it feels like I'm there all the time. So I appreciate you finally having the time to get me on.
Well, I think Maverick might be in the chat. So if anybody would know whether or not you've ever actually appeared officially on the show, it would be him.
It would be Maverick.
It would be Maverick.
Without a doubt.
I don't think, and as I was thinking of having you on, I thought of something that I don't know that you've ever addressed, right? Now, bear with me. I want to talk you through this really quick. You and, your My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast, you have a very good relationship with Four Horsemen Studios. Wouldn't you agree?
Without a doubt. Without a
doubt. That relationship started because you were fans, and then you reached out to Corn Boy. That really started that relationship. But I think it would be fair to say that relationship with the studio got stronger because of the podcast relationship with me. Would you agree as well?
Without a doubt.
So we all know that you have figures that are named after you guys. I'm wearing the shirt. You're wearing the shirt. Now, if we say that your relationship with the studio and the creation of these figures are in large part because of the podcast relationship with me, wouldn't you agree that the relationship between the podcast and me really started with you and me? We're the two that really started. Originally, you and I were the ones that started talking together. You were my original contact there long before Lord Steven was painting heads for Wolf King and all that. Long before Jeremy was even a full-time member of the podcast. It was all, we are the ones that really struck up that friendship.
I would say without a doubt.
So if we bring this full circle, I think that the podcast owes the creation of the Furious Four to you.
Oh.
I think Pelvicus may be the actual leader of the Furious Four.
You think I'm the dumb act is just a way to kind of influence these morons that I sit around a table with?
maybe what's happening is Pelvicus pretends not to be the leader. So if they are ever attacked, you always want to cut the head off the snake, obviously. So they go after Lord Stephen. Well, Pelvicus is really the brains behind this whole operation, but he astutely does not put himself in the visible leader position, so there is no target on his naked, bony body.
I feel like you're painting me into like the Littlefinger role in the show, which I get that. Like, I definitely could see that.
I think that might be it. But realistically, yeah, it's been great. I can remember going back, a couple years ago, and realistically, Mythic Conversations in large part started because of the My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me podcast. It was one of the early podcasts that I was on long before I was a full-time member of the studio, where I really got a taste of the community and talking about toys. I've said to you before that I'm jealous of you guys up there in Michigan, that you have this crew of toy collectors. I don't have that where I am here in Maine. So was really nice to actually have that, and it made me want to do it myself. So, once again, I think we also have the weekly Mythic Legion show here to thank. I think we have you to thank for that as well.
Oh, you are way too kind. Way too kind.
Maverick is asking whether or not Cody Cat is helping you with the computer tonight.
I wish Cody Cat was here. I really do. There's a couple things, being the brains, of course, that I'm like really worried about with this production value that I've got going. But I was thinking before we even started, I think I have minimum at least 3 customs from you, and one
you definitely.
Yeah, one I know I got really early in our friendship. Before I realized you were charging way too much for them. But I was like thinking, man, how wild this ride actually has been.
So I know at least 3 of mine that you have, including one that you bought off eBay, forcing me to pay fees and you to pay tax and shipping, rather than just reaching out to me and saying like, hey dude, I'll buy that off you.
You know what's funny is when I did that, being this evil genius that you're talking about, I thought you would appreciate that I didn't reach out to you, and then now it makes a lot more sense if I just would have reached out to you.
So that was a Skeletor. It's funny because that was you say I charge too much. That was a Skeletor custom that was essentially a full Keltis on a Motu Classics Panther.
Yeah, that was awesome.
2 high price figures. So I know you had that one. You had the Jar Axle that I made you,
which is my favorite of them, by the way.
And you have the Stinkor one.
Yep.
So I know you have those 3.
Mm-hmm. And I got another one that you did really early, I think. And that was like it was like a not Pixis, but it was all black and gold. And it was a Centurion, like knight.
Okay.
Yep, Mercurian, sorry. Yep. And I bought that in a collection, I think.
Okay.
And I think I moved that one. That one I have moved on. The other 3 I still have, though.
Yeah, it's interesting every once in a while to see some of my early customs that I remember selling hit the market. I saw someone not that long ago selling a piece that had the packaging and everything, and I hadn't sold it to them, and that's what they said. They had picked it up in a collection. So it's interesting to see some of that stuff making its way out there.
Yeah. That I actually sold my Keltis.
Oh, yeah.
Because of getting that custom one from you. Yep. Yeah.
Tiffany's asking, Jeremy, are you in Maine or Rhode Island? Am I remembering incorrectly, or did you relocate to Maine? So that's, again, a joke. Me living in Maine was a joke from my first appearance on the My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me podcast, which has genuinely followed me around. Like, people in the community joke. I do live in Rhode Island, but they joke around about me living in Maine because of that old joke.
Which was a good one.
Joe Bassapolo. Yeah, he says to tell Heidi the cute one says hi.
Yeah, how am I supposed to follow up him, by the way?
Just be yourself, Travis. That's all we need from you.
Oh, I got some things planned.
Oh, okay. Well, some of the stuff you've been talking about is some of the things that I wanted to really cover tonight, because after a few weeks, we've been talking a lot about what's going on in the community. And before we really get into the conversation, I do want to cover some quick news. But a big part of the reason I wanted to have you on today is some of the stuff we're joking about. The fact that, we have been friends for quite some time, and you and I have both been in the Legions community really since the very beginning. And a lot of what it means to be kind of a veteran of this community was something I noticed at PowerCon recently. So I kind of want to talk about, from your perspective, being around for so long, some of the things you've seen in the community and how you've seen it grow and everything, and just really what a special environment we have as we get closer to Legions Con 2023.
Ah, perfect.
Okay. So, couple quick news items. Obviously, I mentioned a few minutes ago, Cosmic Legions Ox Crew Book 1 Thraxon. That pre-order ends this Sunday. Now, Travis, you were at PowerCon. You were part of the reveal special. You got to see that stuff revealed live. That was a pretty cool experience. That was a fun little kind of mini G-Con, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was super exciting. And I can tell you how fun it was. So that was Friday night, right?
Yep.
So I got up at 6 a.m. to start setting up for the show. Set up for the show. Friday happened, and Friday at PowerCon was pretty wild.
Yeah, I was busy.
Yep. And then, hey, we're doing this, and how do you say no? You don't, of course. Yep. And then that room was so hot. It was so hot. Which I'm a huge I don't know if you know this, but I'm a huge hot tub fan.
I do know.
Yep. And sauna fan. I think I'm gonna try and get one of those here shortly. But that's kind of what it felt like in there. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter because that was a ton of fun. And obviously I've had the privilege of sitting through something like that before, like you said, G-Con.
Yep.
But I still, being with this line for so long now, I still am amazed at how when this stuff comes out, how I still am like, holy shit. I mean, holy crap. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if I said this or not on the podcast, but it's been a while since a toy.
Mm-hmm. You said that.
Really, and don't get me wrong, I have loved a lot of toys, but when Joe came walking around the corner with that creepy, beautiful little purple dog-like, perfect, when he came walking around with that, I literally got goosebumps on my arm.
Yeah, and
I was like, holy crap! Like that's a fun, amazing feeling, and such a great group of figures, and I'm pretty excited about what the future holds.
Yeah, Cosmic has been a lot of fun. As someone that's been around since the beginning with Mythic, it's kind of cool not only to be able to be around again from the start with Cosmic, but to also see other people who are now in the line and in the community get to experience that as well. A lot of your crew, people like Old Man Kyle and everything, they, Jason, they weren't around from the start of Mythic Legion. So a lot of what they've been doing has been playing catch up, right? To see them get into Cosmic, get into a wave right from the beginning, it's pretty cool. And a lot of these people in Michigan and elsewhere, they do have you guys to thank and you to thank as an approved retailer for getting them into the Legions line, introducing them to these figures.
I will tell you, they don't always thank me.
It is look, we get the same thing at the studio where there's a weird, like, they love it. They love us, but they hate us. Their wallets hate us, but their toy collections love us. So,
yeah. And that is the truth of it. I mean, it's, I had a buddy, Gavin, who owns a shop here, Tardy's in Grand Rapids area. And he's just kind of fallen in love with them recently. And he's known about them. It's always kind of been there, but, and a lot of the Necronomicon wave was a huge one for him.
Okay.
Because of all those skeleton,
Yep.
So he said to me the other day, he goes, dude, my Facebook feed is all Mythic Legions now.
Yeah.
he goes, I don't know if I should thank you or curse you. Like,
yeah. Well, there's so much out there. It's so easy to have your feed quickly be dominated by that. Once you start following this stuff and start commenting on it, there's so much. I mean, there's so many creative and just engaged people in this community, whether they're posting customs, whether they're, posting memes, whether they're, just commenting on things and sharing hauls or stuff like that, dioramas. There's so much out there that it is easy for your feed to be dominated by this community pretty quickly. And now that we've got Mythic, Cosmic, Figure Obscura, it's even more so.
Well, it's also like, it's amazing to me that how you guys have got this schedule just worked out. Like, my kid just came in and handed me this.
Oh, Curtis actually said that on the feed. He said, I dare Travis to light a cigar.
Not happening. Absolutely not.
Has it been a rough week?
Let's just say there was 2 days that were very interesting.
I was listening to that episode saying, is this staged? Is this a bit? And then the little bit you could hear of Heidi in the background, I just heard just the anger in her voice. And I was like, you cannot fake that. She genuinely wanted to kill Steven.
I had to do a lot of defending of Steven over.
Oh, defender of Steven.
And it's weird. Like, that's usually not my role, but things are okay now. We got some stuff worked out.
Good.
And,
okay.
Yep.
Good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Good.
I can't even remember what I was saying before
he came down.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about Cosmic Legions. As I said, the Thraxon wave that ends this coming Sunday. So right now it's on Store Horseman, like all our pre-order waves. Once the direct pre-order is done, it will be available through retailers like Travis here. It's like anything else. We always say this. The benefit of buying it direct is you're going to pay the lowest price possible. The cost of the all-in at $299. I ran the numbers today. It's about $125 cheaper than if you bought those same figures from an approved retailer. Of course, many of the approved retailers don't take money up front the way Store Horseman does. A lot of people like you, Travis, you're selling at shows and stuff. So you're handing over that money and getting the figure immediately. So it's a little give and take. I mean, we've said this many times. The point of us having both the direct option and the retailers are very much so Legionnaires can decide for themselves what makes the most sense. But if you do want to pay the lowest price and get them earliest, because those orders ship out first. All-ins typically ship out first of all. You got until Sunday at 11 p.m. to get them from Store Horseman.
Yeah, even as a retailer, I tell people all the time, get on the site, order them through you guys, get that all in price. That
Mhm.
is easily the best way to go about doing it. I understand why some people don't,
Yeah,
uh,
of
but
course.
yeah, for sure, because that money up front part isn't easy for everybody. But I, I could just look at it from like a business standpoint and go, that is the smartest way for you guys to do business.
Yeah, and like I said, we want to give people options. It's an interesting environment because we have so many fans who actually buy from both. It's not an either or. They will
Yeah,
get an all in or a few extras and stuff direct, and then they'll fill out some holes. They'll get the extras they want for customizing and so forth a little bit later from the retailers. So it's nice that both different sales channels can be supported as part of this, crazy kind of community that we've built here.
oh yeah, for sure.
So we've got that going on now. Another announcement that we made it on, I believe, Monday. So it hasn't. We hadn't announced it when I did my show last time. Was that Cosmic Legion's Grave Night is on the water? So that's on the way now. As a retailer, Travis, you've known that the arrival of that was coming soon because we send those announcements to retailers letting them know when payments are going to be due and all that fun stuff. But that is pretty exciting as well, that I feel like we're still basking in kind of the glow of Cosmic One, and that next wave, the rest of the combatants from the Grave Knight, from the Grave Ring, they're already on their way with that Grave Knight wave.
I think that is, as soon as we kind of figured out that timeline was going to be like that,
Yeah.
I got really excited. I understand wanting things to be spread out a little bit, especially from a wallet standpoint.
Yeah.
But to get Cosmic and kind of still have that fever, going on where we opened all the figures on the podcast.
Yep.
But that was a while ago. And so now I'm still going through and reopening some figures.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's amazing how when you're the one putting them together and you're the one outfitting them and doing all that stuff, how then that appreciation really kind of flares up again. But so like I'm looking going, man, it really doesn't seem like the turnaround for this upcoming wave has really been that long.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, it's hard when you open stuff like on a podcast and you're reviewing and talking about it because there's so much else going on. There's so many sights and sounds and smells going on in that podcast booth that to really take in the figure when you do it in the privacy of your toy room where you're opening it, you definitely can experience it differently.
When you do a review episode like that too, and don't get me wrong, I love doing them. I love hanging out with those smelly dogs, but like you're trying to get through these figures, and it's not like you guys are putting out 4-figure waves here, so you're trying to just kind of like bust through them and everything, and you just don't get that same appreciation. Like you said, it's wild. Like I Slog. Great example.
Yep.
I opened them like again a week ago, and I again was like, wow, there's just so much fun with each one of those figures.
Well,
and I'm looking forward to these ones showing up.
Well, you open these other figures. So G.I. Joe Classified. I love what Hasbro's been doing with G.I. Joe Classified. But I open one of those figures, I pop it open, I put the accessories on it. I'm like, wow, this looks great. I put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
Not taking anything away from that. You open a Legion's figure and you're like, this looks great. Oh, but I got this other head for it. Oh, but I have this custom head that will look good too. Oh, these boots would look good. There's so much going on in your head as you look at that I feel like every figure you open, there's almost like 5 or 6 figures worth of, oh, but look at this in that package as you open each one.
I've joked around and I mean, it's not, I'm I'm not an artist. Like I don't have anything. There's nothing artistic about me, really.
Mhm.
So I I love poppet swaps. Like I look at people's poppet swaps, and don't get me wrong, I love customs, and I bought
Mhm.
a lot.
Yep.
But I don't have. But you guys have made it so easy where you can just take a head and put that head on there, and that aspect of all of a sudden you've created a whole new character. And I created a little monster. I mean, not only is
Yeah.
he bringing props in during a podcast, but I come into my toy room and I find this, and that is what my 18-year-old does.
Yeah.
Like he will come in here and he'll tear figures apart, which we've had to have a few conversations about. And he loves these Marvel magic effects,
Yeah.
and he loves them, which
Put
he's
'em on.
super excited about what you guys are about to be putting out. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's an 18-year-old who's way too cool for toys right now.
Yeah.
I mean, but guess what? He's
Playing
spending
with
more
them.
time in my toy room, popping and swapping.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's
That's
just awesome. And that is, to me, that is one of the huge differences with this toy line that I've collected a lot of toys and have a lot of friends that collect a lot of toys, and I just don't see that with other toy lines. I mean, I know what happens. People customize Star Wars, they customize Marvel Legends,
No,
but
yes.
no, it's so different. And it's different because someone like me can literally create a new character this, easy. And that's what makes it fun.
I think the difference, though, with other lines, and yes, there are people that create tribute customs in Mythic Legions, but even those are like Legions versions of those characters. I feel like people that are customizing, say, Transformers, they're customizing characters into other Transformers that are part of the lore already. They're taking a figure and they're like, oh, Grimlock in this episode looked like this, so I'm going to customize this figure to look like that.
Yeah.
Legions are very much a line where, yes, people may be doing that, like I said, with the tributes, but so many people are making their own ideas, their own creations, whether it's like what Steven and Emil do with like the God's Fire stuff, or whether it's just people popping and swapping things to make cool versions of demons and skeletons and goblins and knights and so forth. Totally different.
Could we maybe trade Steven for Emil? Could we make that happen?
Well, I mean, Emil's going to be here in a couple months for Legions Con. Maybe if you can find a way to somehow put Steven back on the plane over to Sweden and keep Emil. I feel like this is more you need to work this out internally with your crew. I don't feel like I can be a big part of this.
I think my crew could make this happen.
I'm sure they could.
Yeah. I do love that, man.
I do. Yeah. So talking about that, Legions Con's coming up, and something that I realized at PowerCon this past, a couple weeks ago when we were both there hanging out, which I will say, when you did, I loved your PowerCon recap that you did on the podcast, and you mentioned that dinner that we went to on the Saturday night. Huge crew of people. It was the My Wife Is Going to Kill Me crew and all of your Whack Pack, along with the whole Four Horsemen Studios crew, the Glios crew. It was a lot of people, and you and I got to sit together and actually spend some quality time together. That dinner was one of my favorite parts of that entire PowerCon weekend. That whole night was just an absolute blast.
It certainly was.
But one of the things I realized, and I'm curious if you're having this happen too. I'm a huge toy fan. You're a huge toy fan. I go to these shows and I find myself not really buying toys. I go to these shows and I find myself more excited to just soak in the environment, to be there and hang out with people and meet friends, friends that I may only see once a year, being able to see them and hang out with them and talk to them, that has become such an important part of this hobby for me. And as crazy as it is to say I'm a toy collector, where collecting the toys isn't the primary thing I'm enjoying about the hobby anymore. Are you finding something similar?
So I've kind of always had that mentality. Like my close friends will say that they're like, you're not a toy collector, Travis, you're a friend collector.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
Obviously that toy aspect helps, however it happens, like that is the part that to me that makes those kind of events amazing.
Yeah.
Like I love getting to see the people that I've made these relationships with. And it's the toys are a great part of it. And I do think there's another little piece like that what besides Mythic Legions, is there anything you collect over Mythic Legions now?
Over? No.
Yeah.
No.
And me either. So when I go to these shows now, the only real table I want to go look at is the Four Horsemen table.
Yep.
And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I bought some cool stuff at PowerCon as well.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's what I'm really into. And while don't get me wrong, there's things on that table that I want. I have them.
Yep.
Like you.
Yep.
I've been in this for a while. So the friend aspect, the community aspect, the that whole piece of this is, and that's I'll tell you, that's a big reason why I fell in love with Four Horsemen Studios, is because they're the same way. Like they love talking to people about these toys, and they love getting to know people and the relationships. And that's why, like, you guys, everybody knows, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody probably watching this channel, regardless of what they do for a career, is like, man, it would be really great to work at Four Horsemen Studios. It would be really great.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna sell it short. It's amazing. It's fun too, because like we do a show like that, and even though I said I ended up not buying a lot of toys, I did buy some things. And like the whole crew that works there, with the exception of Jim, Jim's not a toy guy. With the exception of him, everybody at the show, we're all like, hey, there's a little bit of a lull. Can you watch the register for me, or can you watch this for me? I want to go run the show. It's like they're there. They want to walk around. They want to see it. They want to buy stuff. It's very cool to be part of that. I do want to bring up this comment. Mark 4 Prime says, we need a Mythic/Cosmic Con in Michigan. There actually was a con in Michigan that had a very strong Legions presence on it. Travis, you're wearing the shirt from it.
I am, yeah. Yep. That was Mesquite Con. That was Pete's baby. It was a great time, and Mythic collectors came in abundance. I would say that our hope for next year is that it is going to become a little bit more of that Michigan Cosmic, I guess Mythic Con, however you want to describe it, because I do feel like we're going to go forward from here, hopefully, as long as the studio plans on it.
We're there. We're absolutely there.
Yeah, it was a great time, and I'll tell you that show gave me that's probably the most time I'd ever spent with Jim.
Oh yeah, because Jim and Cornboy are the two members of the studio that went to the show.
Yeah, and man, I love Jim.
Jim's awesome, dude. Jim is a blast.
I mean, I know you've gone on like 8-hour car rides with Jim.
2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. Jim, I drove with him all the way from New Jersey to Ohio for PowerCon. So I'm in the van. This year we had a bigger truck, so we had to go a little slower. It took 9 hours to get there. And yeah, I absolutely love spending time with Jim.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great group. And that con in Michigan, I foresee it being one of those things just continues to grow, and we put together a little Mythic Legions group on Facebook, and it's hard because I know we're all a part of so many groups on Facebook, but I did put together a little one called Mythiganders.
Okay.
Yep. And I wish I could remember who actually came up with it. I think it was a New Jersey boy that might have came up with it. It might have been maybe Jim Sargent, I think, but came up with that name because of course somebody from Michigan couldn't do that. But we will, the plan is to kind of grow that, and we will have a Mythic meetup for sure at that con.
Well, at some point, I need to get out to one of those shows because I very much want to come and hang out with you guys as, not only a friend, but also a genuine fan of your podcast and your brand of comedy. I want to be a part of that as well. So I'm looking forward to going down. So for the person that asked about that Michigan show, keep your eyes open for MuskeeCon next year if you want to get that Michigan kind of flavor of a Legions show.
Yeah, I feel bad too because that's one of my boys, and I must not have done a good job of getting him over on this side of the state. He's on the other side, but
Joe Vassapolo's in the chat. Joe saying 4 Horsemen doesn't exist like this without the fans. Absolutely true. I mean, the growth that we have seen, and again, Travis, you can attest to this. You were an original backer of that Kickstarter. So you've been able to sit back and see this company, this line, and this community grow. And it very much feeds itself where the fans support the studio, and the studio very much does what we can to support the fans in return. It is kind of a very reciprocal community situation that is fairly unique as far. I mean, I've been a toy collector for 30 years now or something. I've never seen something like this. So to be involved with it is incredibly special. But you've been able to see that community grow substantially over the years. Even something like the couple years of Legions Con that you've seen grow from 2021, which was the first one you came to, through now, you've seen that incredible growth as well.
Yeah, that community, and this goes obviously the studio, the fans, Walter with the Cabal, and all his wonderful moderators there. It's been wild just watching that, and I've told people like I've been selling Mythics for a long time. Before I was a retailer, I was buying 3 to 4 all-ins, and then because I was selling toys already, like I was just setting up at cons, and I remember selling the Coliseum Wave, for like I think I probably started at like $45 and then went to $75. And I have friends who talk to me and they were like, man, at $75, it's just way too much for a figure. And some of those friends, oh man, Kyle, are like, thank you, dear. Can you do me another favor? Will you fill this back up?
Really?
Yeah.
I have a funny story for you later.
Come say hi. Come say hi to Jamie.
Hello.
Hey, your room looks like this room.
Yes, and it doesn't smell like cigar smoke down here or anything. It's very nice.
Not really funny. Well, you haven't had Steve over yet, so don't do that.
I won't. I've learned.
Well, yes, I agree. You should not.
Hi, Heidi. Dusty says, please don't kill Travis.
I've told my friends and coworkers if one day I just don't show up. Oh, don't worry, Joe. We'll tell her.
So when she comes back.
Yeah. I've told them, I go, hey, if I just turn up dead one day, don't look into it. Okay, like I probably deserved it. So just look the other way.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah. This community has always been one of those communities that I felt like it was a privilege to be part of. because it is just a great community. And don't get me wrong, is there issues sometimes? Of course,
sure.
Sometimes we're the issue. But it is a great group of toy collectors that
It is.
Yeah, they're just, it's wonderful. And to see, you guys putting you and Joe putting Legion's Con together, brilliant. Like, it's perfect. And it's my favorite vacation I've ever had in my life. In my life.
In your life. Wow.
Ever.
And so
yeah.
I gotta tell you, I cannot wait for all of people like yourself, because everyone who's going to their first Legion's Con isn't going to have a point of comparison. Did you tell her? Tell her.
Oh wow.
His cup was really, really full already, so he's just trying to make you think he's drinking a lot, but just so sipping that. But what are you supposed to tell me?
Joe Vassapolo, the cute one, says hi. she probably don't remember Joe Vassapolo. You do?
Yeah, he's the one who showed us the troll upstairs.
Oh yeah, yep.
He always tells me
he took us on a tour.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
He
He took us on a tour of the studio. That was it. Just a tour, Jeremy. It was just a tour.
Okay. We'll leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for people like yourself who have been to Legion's Con a couple years to come into this place, because I know and I've said this on the show before, but there were 2 hotels we were considering, and I wanted one and Joe Viteri wanted another one. And I was like, no, I don't want that one. And he said, no, I'm telling you, Jeremy, this is the one. You got to come check it out. So I begrudgingly went to go look at it with him. And the minute I walked in, I was just like, yeah, I'm wrong. This place is amazing. When everyone walks in and they just see the upgrade that we have to this facility, the size of the show, just the size of the venue and the amenities that are there, it is going to be such an incredibly fun weekend. To the point, Travis, where I'm going to bring this up. I haven't shown this yet, but I actually put this together this week. So this is the floor plan for the main ballroom at Legion's Con 2023. Now, everyone doesn't have to screenshot this. We're going to make this available for download.
Too late.
Screenshot.
Yeah.
This is so everyone can get a sense. Last year, that main room that we were in, Travis, was about 6,000 square feet, right?
Numbers mean nothing to me.
Well, do you know what the number of 6,000 is?
I have a general idea.
Do you understand? Okay, this new room here is 11,000 square feet. So can you fathom the difference between 6 and 11?
My wife said it's double. So yeah.
It's about double.
Yeah.
So this one room is 11,000 square feet. So it's almost twice as large as the room we had last year. And then we have 2 side rooms as well that are about 5,000 square feet together. So this particular room, you can see here, and I'll zoom in a little bit here, like you can see that what's going to happen is when you walk in, there's 2 entrance doors. So there's going to be a line, like outside of these doors is the hallway. That's where registration will be. You'll have 2 decision options to get in. There obviously will be a line for the 4 horsemen table, or if you don't want to wait in that line, you just want to get into the show and see everything else, you can just go into the other door and that will get you in right to the rest of the show. So you can see over here, tables 1 through 4, that's where the 4 horsemen will be set up. That's like 40 feet of table right there that they will have filled with Legion's products. Nate Barch right at the end. On the other side, we have, Team Wolf King, Emil, Curtis, Jesse from Just Shelve It. So there's just great. And then you're down here. So you're table 34. I wedged you between Matt Rodriguez and Drunk Gizmo Customs because they are two people that I figure were safe to put around you because they both know what they're getting into.
They definitely know. Yeah.
Yeah. There wouldn't be any surprises. I wouldn't have that uncomfortable situation where, on, like 9:30 on Saturday morning, I have one of the vendors coming up and saying, why would you put me next to these guys? Travis's pants are off.
For starters, how are they fitting that much man in one booth? Is that possible? We're going to do it though.
These are bigger booths than last year, and you fit that much man in the room last year. So we'll make this available, but the cool thing is you see this floor plan. Page 2 of this document actually lists out every single vendor so you know who is where. So you're not just looking at those little thumbnails. But even when you get to the last page, you can see even just the side room is a whole bunch of different vendors there, plus the breakout sessions. So it's an absolutely crazy group of vendors that are going to be set up for this thing. And you can see this full list, by the way. Anybody that's trying to look at this, if you go online to legionscon.com, there's a link at top that says guests. This entire list is listed there under guests. And again, we will make this map available because that's one of the crazy things about LegionsCon is people like plan out their attack. Like they plan out which tables are they going to hit first because there's so many like one-of-a-kind customs for sale at the show that they want to make sure they get there first.
Yeah, I can tell you from my experience, just the crew that came, from the Midwest here, Michigan, Indiana area, a lot of money was spent on that first day.
Yeah.
A lot of money was spent on that second day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's almost because you look at this list and you recognize names, Dennis Derby, Noel Pratt, you're going to recognize this stuff. You're going to know they're and then you walk around and then you run into someone that you've never really seen their stuff before.
Yep.
And you're like, wow,
yep.
That's an amazing piece. Just walking around, taking pictures of the customs is fun. It's just, it's a super exciting show. And like I said, it's the funnest show I've ever been to.
You need 2 days, like it being because I remember when we did the 1-day show in 2021, the day ended and there were people that were like, I didn't even get to walk the floor. I mean, there were people last year that a 2-day show didn't walk the floor. They were like, I've been so busy and focused on everything. I didn't even see everything. Right. But yeah, it's crazy. One thing I've heard a number of people, because there will be a line at the Four Horsemen table. There's no way around it. The combination of the checkout scanners and the multiple checkouts and separating the exclusive figures from the Four Horsemen table, that will be helpful. The exclusives this year will actually be in the hallway. So outside of the main ballroom, there will be a table to pick up those figures. I've been telling people, I think a good strategy is don't get in the Horseman line first thing on Saturday. Plan to hit the rest of the show. Plan to hit the booths you want to hit first, because the reality is the Horseman table is going to have product all weekend. Whether you're, first in line or 21st or 121st in line, the product's going to be different. There may be cases of absolute fire that Joe Vassapolo brings out. They may not be on the table for the start of the show. They may not hit the table until noon or 2:00 in the afternoon. So you have as much of a chance of grabbing stuff regardless of when you go to the Horseman table. But a lot of these customs tables, if it's a one-of-a-kind custom that's for sale, once it's gone, it's gone. So I think a great strategy is hit the rest of the show, see what you want to see, buy what you want to get. A lot of people go there. I know Pete has done this where he goes there with a certain amount of money that he wants to pick up customs from a couple specific artists. He wants to add this artist work to his collection. Do that on Saturday. Pick up your exclusive because there's a different exclusive Saturday and Sunday. So make sure there's a lot of exclusives to go around. You don't need to be first in line for that. You definitely do want to plan to do it in the earlier part of the day. Get it done, by noonish or whatever if you can. But then check out the Horseman table. And then once you do that on Saturday, if you want to be part of that early crew and get in line crazy early for the Horseman table on Sunday, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think that makes a lot of sense as well, but I do not foresee it working that way.
You think people are still going to get in that Horseman line?
People are still going to get in that line.
You got to do it.
I mean, I really would like to know, and I know no one's counting or anything, but I would like to know how deep the deepest of those lines ever got. And I can't think of what show that would even be.
It was Legion's Con last year.
I was going to say it had to be, right? Because everyone was there for that, and they were in that line.
The Saturday at Legion's Con last year, it got much better on the Sunday when we separated the lines. Yep. When we opened the doors, do you remember the hotel? The line started snaking into the breakfast room, and they told you can't do that. They said, people are trying to enjoy their breakfast. So they had us put people out. Now, we were lucky last year. The weather in New Jersey was gorgeous last November.
And not usually like that, right?
That's the thing. New Jersey in November, it could be in the 60s. It could be in the 20s. It's literally, it's a guess. But it was clear weather, very, very mild. It was wonderful. The line came out the building around the corner and was up into the parking garage. Yeah. We took video of walking around and seeing it. It was absolutely insane. But what also happened, even once we started, because we realized that a lot of people were in line for the exclusives because we mistakenly put everyone in one line. We fixed that on Sunday. Joe and I also literally walked the line saying to people, are you just in line for the exclusives? We were selling exclusives right in the line to get people out of the line.
Yeah.
But what happens with the Horseman line is you go up because there are purchase limits, right? We limit, you can buy one of any item on the table, you can only buy one. Because we want to make it go as far as possible, which it's insane that we're a toy company. Our job is to sell toys, and we're looking at people saying, I can't sell you as many toys as you want to buy. Like I can only sell you a smaller percentage of the toys you want. That's insane to be in that, but that's luckily, thankfully, the position we're in. But what happens is people buy stuff, check out, go put it in their room, and get right back in line.
Yeah.
The line didn't end. Diego and George didn't stop checking people out for the entire show. And when it got done, George eventually, we left the doors open an extra hour on Saturday, and George finally just said, I can't check any more people out. We have to stop.
Wow.
Yeah.
With that said, people spending that much time in that line and going through and buying however many figures they bought from you guys, I can tell you as a vendor with a very small table, with stuff, because I drove a car from Michigan with my family in it. People made money.
Yeah.
Vendors made money.
Well, that's one of the cool things is because you always hear people say things like, I'm sure that you've heard vendors say this phrase, they sucked all the money out of the room. And there's always an argument to be made of, well, they brought the money to the room. A lot of these people wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. But I heard that time and time again from vendors at Legion's Con last year, where they were like, regardless of how much people spent at the Horseman table, they spent everywhere.
Yeah.
People really view Legion's Con not only as an opportunity to buy stuff from the Horseman table, but it's like that once a year opportunity to get all this stuff from all these different artists. Again, if I go back to this floor plan here and I look at the names, as I was putting this map together, Travis, I was getting giddy thinking about bringing all of these artists and just community members and good people together. You know, Four Horsemen, obviously, Nate Barch, Wolf King Customs with Steven and Patrick and David and Nathaniel, Emil, Curtis, Jesse, Joe Vassapolo, Chris from D13, the Legion's Lounge crew, C. Jessam, Retro Rags. Just that first, that's all like studio. Like everyone I just named has like something to do with the studio in some way. You know, Legion Shop, myself, Eric LeBron, Dennis Derby, Noah Pratt, Eric Miller. We got a whole bunch of independent toy companies, Creative Beast, Von Burke, Toy Forge. I'm not going to go through this entire list, but you get the idea. This is crazy, absolutely crazy group of people that are going to be at this show.
I love customs. Like I absolutely love them. I have been lucky enough to have Steven, Joe Crazy Bill, Von Creek Customs, Chris Middlecamp, people like that are 10 minutes from me.
Yep.
That make great customs. So I actually don't buy a lot online.
Yeah.
Because I have great artists close by that I can just reach out to. There is a lot of these people that I have admired their custom work for a long time.
Yep.
And when you put them in a place where I can come and shop, it not only does it make it so much easier, but it's just like a plethora of amazing.
Yep.
You know, and it's probably my favorite part of the whole thing.
Did you I don't know if I ever told you the story about Eric LeBron last year. Eric LeBron's a good friend, customizer whose work I admire. He was right across from the Legion shop table last year, and my wife was running the Legion shop table. So she looked at one of his customs and she was asking him about it, and it caught her eye. It was an orc with like a bear pelt on his head and stuff. So at the end of the show, he comes up and he hands me something wrapped in bubble wrap. And my wife had already left, and he's like, "Is your wife still here?" And I said, "No, she had to get to the train station to get back to Rhode Island." And he said, "Can you give this to her?" And I was like, "You got to be kidding me, man." So he literally gave my wife a custom, which is awesome because my wife was incredibly touched. She doesn't collect Mythic Legions.
Yeah.
So it's in my case. Right over there. Oh, yeah. So I've got an Eric LeBron custom over there that super excited. And every time I see it in the case, I remember that story. And as cool as the custom is, the story and the generosity and all that make it that much better.
I think you're reading this wrong. Smooth Eric was putting some moves down.
Oh, no.
And guess who actually ended up winning out in the whole thing? You got the girl and the toy.
It's win-win.
Win-win. Guess what? I guess Heidi's going to have to go visit his booth.
It was, so I'm incredibly excited. And look, we've said multiple times, it's part toy show, part art exhibit, part family reunion. All three of those are equally important. Yeah, I mean, going there and getting those exclusive figures. Look, I mean, we like the toys. We're excited to get these toys and everything. And there are toys that are going to be available for the first time ever at Legions Con. That's super cool. But seeing all this work, hanging out with all these people, and I encourage anybody who's going, seriously, there are so many people in this community that are socially awkward. They have a lot of difficulty in social gatherings. Do not be worried about that. Literally come down to the lobby, hang out with everybody. You will never find a more welcoming group of people that are genuinely thrilled to have you there, because that time in the lobby, which Thursday night, actually Wednesday night, there will be people in that lobby that are there for intern for a day the next day. There's already going to be a couple people milling about. And then Thursday night, it grows. Thursday night was when you guys came in last year, and that got a little bit bigger. Friday night, it blows up because Friday night is G-Con. Everyone is setting up for Allegiance Con. Everyone is at the con. So Friday night and Saturday night are the two big nights. And then even Sunday, all the people that don't want to leave on Sunday after the show that are like, one more night, I'll drive away in the morning. It's 5 days. For those people who are going for the whole Mythic weekend, it is 5 days. And I encourage you, make time to get to the lobby and hang out with people. It is amazing.
My favorite part, and don't get me wrong, I really like this part. But it is saying a family reunion. I don't think that does it justice, because I think a lot of people, when you say family reunions, most people are like, F the family reunion. I don't want to go to that.
Yeah. This you want to go to.
Yeah, this one. And don't get me wrong, because if you got a cool family, that you want to go to that. But this is just it's
yeah.
And non-judgmental. Like, when you look, I mean, Treadaway is like closing out the lobby on Saturday night. Yeah, I mean,
he's
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, I look at this event, and there's so much more to it, and I love seeing the floor plan. It's wonderful. I'm super excited about it, seeing the names there, but that is a great piece of this. But it really is about that community aspect and getting to hang out with people and just sit and talk about stuff that you love.
Well, you have people, you mentioned Treadaway lives 15 minutes from the hotel. He's got a room at the hotel. Bill Mancuso, he's got a room at the hotel. He doesn't live far from the hotel. Everyone stays there because they don't want to not be a part of it. Even though they could just go home, they're like, no, I'm going to be here. And you're right. Eric will close out that lobby the nights that he's there. Absolutely.
It's just such a great experience. And I understand, like, I still hear people talk about how, I was just kind of tired, so I went back to my room, which
sure,
I get it.
Absolutely.
I totally get it.
Absolutely. It is, if you go to your room because you're not feeling well or you're tired or whatever, 100%. That I get it. I totally get it. But if you're doing it because you don't feel like you're going to belong or you're not going to know anybody, please give it a shot. Curtis has actually said, I have a panic disorder, and I can confirm there was nothing to worry about. In fact, it was therapeutic. Cloud saying, I'm crazy nervous about this with my social anxiety. I have no doubt the community will be as great to me as they are in the Cabal. Cloud, they're going to be even better. I will warn you, there might be hugs. I don't know if you're comfortable with hugs, but there's a lot of hugging in this. People, they are genuinely, like, you'll come up to people and, you'll introduce yourself, and they'll be like, because people introduce themselves to me, and, I'm fortunate that I have this role. I have this visibility. So they'll come up and they'll want to meet me. And when I ask them, what's your name, so I can recognize them, if they say a name I recognize, like Cloud, immediately I light up and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy to see you and everything. And then there's usually hugs.
Yeah.
I'm a hugger.
It is one of those things where we build all these relationships over sometimes years online. And then, thank you, dear. Then you get the opportunity to finally meet these people in person when you're surrounded by all the stuff that you love. It's a pretty euphoric feeling.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Yeah. I said that it's 4 days. Joe says it's like 14 days for the studio. It is. I'll probably get to the studio. I'll probably come in on Monday. I'll probably be there on Monday to just be a part of everything. I'll probably be at the studio from Monday through Tuesday, the following Tuesday.
Well, it's not like you guys don't have other stuff going on either.
Yeah, I mean, we have so much. It's like in our infinite wisdom, we planned a event like Intern for a Day where we open up the studio and welcome everybody to a place the day before we have this giant like 6-hour reveal special followed by a 2-day con that we have to go set up for. It's pure chaos, but we love it. I mean, we thrive on that. Joe's saying it's 14 days. The energy in that place during those 14 days is palpable.
Well, and that's also too an example of how great the studio is. You got all this stuff going on, a lot of pressure, and you guys still are there celebrating this toy line with the fans, which makes it wonderful.
Absolutely. So I'm curious. You asked earlier about, if I'm collecting anything other than Legions. I mean, Legions are, even before I was working there full time, Legions were my primary thing. And, I know you did on the studio recently, the podcast recently, like, what 3 lines would you keep if you had to get rid of everything else? And thankfully you grouped Mythic, Cosmic, and Figura together. So I didn't have to pick those 3. Absolutely, Legions are my number 1. I can't remember, what was what other things are you actively collecting these days?
G.I. Joe,
Okay.
Which was wild, right? Because I did say I was done, and then they dropped that picture of Storm Shadow and Spirit, and then I was like, oh, I guess I'm not done.
They did a big about face after that first wave. Like, I bought that first wave on principle.
Yeah.
And got him and was just like, I don't really like these. And I was done as well. I was ready to drop. And I think I'm looking at my collection. I'm trying to think which one. I think it was Beachhead and the Cobra Trooper or the Firefly from Target that made me say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to go back and get these. And I did. My rule with Classified is I only buy figures that I had as a kid. So something like the Arctic Bat, which I really, really like, I've forced myself not to buy just so I won't go down that path. I didn't have the Trouble Bubble as a kid, so I did not buy the Televiper and Trouble Bubble.
I think we may have talked about this before, but I know we both collected Spawn.
Yeah.
So because of Spawn, we never really were out of toys, probably for the most part. But G.I. Joe is really what, yeah. G.I. Joe is really what brought me back into toys, and it was 4-inch. So for them to start talking Classified, man, I got excited. Now I'm doing the same thing you're doing. I'm not buying just the ones I had as a kid. I'm buying the ones that I just really love.
Yeah.
So I'm not, now don't get me wrong, that might mean, because like Shadow Tracker is a great example. He's a figure coming out soon that was not like
that's one with the dreads, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I need that figure.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, super cool. So they, like you said, that's a great example of a company realizing they might have made a mistake.
Yep.
And coming back to us, the people with money buying toys.
They're killing
and I feel like they really fixed that. And like today, I don't know if you saw, but people are, I think, starting to get maybe notifications about the HISS shipping.
Oh, I got a couple of those. I got a couple of those on the way.
Yeah, which even if you're just keeping 1 or 2 pieces and flipping, I mean, whatever you choose to do with that thing, it's going to be well worth it. It's an amazing toy. It's just an amazing.
I'm excited
toy.
For that.
Yep.
So Classified is one. I'm with you. Yeah. Classified is one of mine as well. What's your third?
So I would have said Marvel Legends, but I recently have really been struggling. Now, with that said, the Sentinel, Galactus, the HasLabs.
Yep.
They're two of the greatest toys ever made.
Yep, they're great.
They're amazing. But there's something going on where I'm just not the single figures, and I'll tell you part of it too, like $25 each or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I just, I don't love them enough. So it really might be, I mean, Marvel Legends would be number 3.
Okay.
Okay. With obviously Mythics being number 1.
Yeah. For me, my number 3 is still Mezco Rumble Society.
Mm-hmm.
And they might actually be number 2. I certainly spend more on Mezco. There was a hot minute where I was buying extras and I was like customizing them, and I quickly realized that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
So now I'm just getting the Mezco Rumble. I'm not a completist for that anymore. I just get the ones that I like. I happen to like most of the Rumbles they do, so I'm excited for that. Lately, the studio's gotten to me and they've turned me on to that whole Glyos type thing. And I know you guys were talking about that on the show, that how do we like these little figures? Dude, they're so much fun. I'm having a blast with those.
I totally get it. I also, when I was a kid, I really liked getting toys out of gumball machines. So I'm just kidding. They're super cool. And I totally understand why people would love them, because also, I mean, obviously we're Mythic, that being able to change things and do cool stuff. I totally get it.
Well, what's fun is, so I mean, there's a lot of different artists in the Glyos kind of sphere. There's one particular one, the line is called Biomasters, that right now, that one I think seems to be my favorite. I really like the pieces I've gotten from him, the interchangeability and stuff. But I gotta tell you, I was never a Glyos fan, and I kept hearing about it from Eric in the studio and Diego and George. I hung out with the Glyos crew extensively at PowerCon, and hanging out with them, you are just like, okay, this is the Mythic community. This is the Mythic community before there was a Mythic community. You know, everything that I've heard them say, I've heard Eric and Cornboy and Jim talk about when they wanted to build this line, build the interchangeability, build the community aspect, really be supportive of artists and creators. That is the Glyos community to a T. So you hang out with them and it feels so familiar, and they're all such cool guys that are creating these figures that you just want to support what they're doing. You're just like, dude, I want to get this just because you're super cool. Then you get it home and you start mixing and matching and playing, and you're like, these are fun. These are really, really fun. So yeah, so I'm liking those a lot. That's actually one of the things that I'm looking forward to a lot at Legions Con, is hitting up the Glyos table and getting some time to hang out with that crew again.
Which is another, because I have friends that love that stuff. You know, Jeremy's a great example. DeWitt,
yes,
you know, he loves it. You know, he goes to PowerCon and he comes back with a handful or whatever of these, and I'm sitting here going, you went to PowerCon and this is what you bought? But I get it. It is, you know, when you sit there and look, and of course the Motu aspect to it and certain figures, it makes complete sense. How about Mondo? How about those Mondo? Is that doing anything for you?
So let me just answer this. Bill, there actually already is a list of the Glyos artists that are going to be there on the Legions Con website. If you go, it's actually the end of the guest list. After all the guests, the last group is for Mini GlideCon, and it lists all of the artists that are going to be there as part of Mini GlideCon. So you can go check that right now. Mondo, I have the Merman that I got, their big Motu line. I saw it at PowerCon. I actually spent some time talking to one of the artists over there. I love them, but that is an example of something I have said, I can't go down that path. I don't want to do that scale. Oh, here we go. 8:45. We're getting serious now. It's getting hot. It is.
It's getting hot.
For one moment, I almost wanted to take my shirt off as well, just because I was like, that'd be a really funny joke on the show. But then my self-preservation kicked in, and I decided I wasn't going to do that. So
it's not too late.
So yes, I have intentionally stayed away. The Battle Cat was hard to stay away from. I almost got the Skeletor. I almost said to my wife when they did the new Skeletor, "Can you buy this for me as a Christmas present?" I almost said that. And seeing Skeletor on the Panther at PowerCon, yeah, I was. It's hard. You're not doing that line, right?
No, I did buy them, and I kind of had a thought that maybe I would do He-Man Skeletor.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course I can't remember who came next. I can't remember if it was
Trapjaw. The Trapjaw looks awesome.
So that's the problem. Is as soon as I saw the other ones, I was like, no, there's no stopping. Yeah. Because in my opinion, besides the Skeletor is amazing.
The Skeletor is really good, yeah.
Yep. And the He-Man's okay, but I've always been I like the bad guys.
You and me both.
Yeah. So like I started to see those, and Merman is beautiful. So like I understand why you bought that. Yeah. Like I was like, you won't be able to do this. And that's how I was with classics. I had a shelf. It was probably elite. I think it was probably about 30 deep, and it was just all bad guys.
Yeah,
all bad guys. As a matter of fact, my He-Man classic is a custom Conan now. So like, I knew that if I started down that path, it would be bad. They're
gorgeous, though. They're gorgeous.
They're beautiful, but they also take up.
That's the other thing. Yeah.
Yes. They take up space. And
I purged all my 1/6 scale stuff. I didn't have a lot of it, but a couple years ago, I got rid of the few 1/18 I had and the few 1/6 scale and said, you know what? 1/12 is really what I enjoy. That's where I want to be. So I really don't want to go back down that road. And even doing something like you just mentioned. Yeah, because you can get He-Man, Battle Cat, Skeletor, Panther. That's a great display right there, right on the top of some Detolfs or whatever. That would look perfect. But that takes up like 2 giant Detolf tops right there. I can fit so many other figures in that space.
Yeah. That's really what I think it does come down to is I've always been a collector that was, if I'm not displaying it, why have it?
Yeah.
And so like that's what when I decided that I was going to have a Mythic diorama, it was I got rid of my flag, my Defiant, my Terrordrome. Mm-hmm. I got rid of all those things, and what I mean by got rid of them was I put them in a tote and put them in my closet.
Yeah.
And then after they sat there for 6 months to a year, I was like, "What are you doing?"
Why am I doing it? Yep.
Yeah. Like it. And I'm not faulting anybody that does that, because that's how some people like to collect. But
sure,
that wasn't how I like to collect.
Yep. There are some people that rotate. I've heard people that are like, I take stuff down, put it in storage, put new stuff out. They rotate collections. I can respect that. I'm like you. I've always been like, if it's not on display, I'm going to sell it. And there's usually that moment, because I've sold tons of stuff, things that I genuinely loved. And after that initial like pain, I forget about it and I move on to something else. I think it's healthy to have a collection that feeds itself, where, you're making room and making budget to replace it with things that you want instead.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that is, and like I said, I'm not faulting anyone else's, but I feel like that is a very healthy way to collect. It is not easy.
It is not.
You've got to be willing to put the work in.
Yep.
And that's what kind of will scare some people away from that. But I tell people all the time, the reason why I go to these toy shows and sell figures is so I can have this toy room.
Yeah.
If if I wasn't doing that, I couldn't do this.
Yep.
Like I don't make that kind of money. And so being willing to do that is what makes it so I can have this.
Well, I've heard you say as well, and I'm the same mentality where I've had things that I love, and then I look what they're worth, and I'm like, well, I don't love it that much, and that's true. It's in the early days of collecting, it's hard because most of the stuff you have is probably worth what you paid for it, if not less in some cases. And you don't have a lot that's expendable. But once you've been collecting for a couple of years and your collection has started to appreciate in value a little bit, I'm very fortunate. I haven't spent bill money on toys in 20 years. Yeah. I've been able, the collection got to the point where, as I just said, it fed itself. Where if I really wanted something that was outside of my budget, I said, well, what do I have that I can sell instead to make up that difference? So I think that's a healthy place to be for sure. I will tell you that looking at available space, I'm certainly running out of space at this point. You mentioned Marvel Legends. That is probably the line for me that's on the chopping block. That's probably the line, the display that I have that's fairly extensive that I could see getting rid of or significantly reducing in the next year or so to make room for other stuff.
Yeah, and that happened to me about a year ago. It just was Marvel Legends was that thing and I was a completist. So I had figures, and it's so crazy because you sit back and you kind of look at it and I go, dude, you don't even know who that person is.
Yeah.
Like you never read a comic book that had that character in it.
Yeah.
And the only reason you have it is because they put it out and you're like, oh, I got to have all of them.
Oh, it's probably what you needed for the Build-A-Figure. And then once you bought it, you were like, well, I might as well put it on the shelf. I'll put it in the back, It's like someone's got to be in the back, Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I think that's what happened to me is I just kind of had one of those like where you're like, oh, just keep the ones that you really love and that their character, their story means something to you. Like, so that made it much, much easier for me. I like, not that Mythic Legions needed anything more for me to love them, but like the Dark Elves is like one of my favorite race story-based Dritz Stewart and characters. It's just, and like you said, like Jarlaxle, that figure you made me, that character might be my favorite character ever. Like ever. And it's hard because Dritz, is here, but like the fact that you guys put Dark Elves in Mythic Legion, like, okay. Like it's a little piece of heaven for me.
So before we close this out, because we're coming up on 9, back to Legions, we've got a couple waves coming soon. Obviously, we said the Grave Knight wave is on the water. The Poxus wave, we haven't announced that yet, but that is nearing completion. Before you know it, we're going to have an announcement about that being on the way as well, which is very exciting. Obviously, we've got Necronominus and All-Star 6 and, Zaxius and Oxcrew. There's so much good stuff coming. I'm curious, off the top of your head, are there any figures that are coming in some of these upcoming waves that you are most excited for? Some that the minute you saw, you were like, that is going to be one of my favorite Mythic pieces or Cosmic pieces.
And you said which waves do I get to pick from here?
Any that are coming up. I mean, Grave Knight and Poxus are two that are going to be arriving soonest.
Poxus, I honestly cannot pick from that wave. Seeing them at PowerCon,
I was going to ask, is it because you don't remember who's in the wave?
Well, that is a hard piece, but there's so much stuff I loved in Poxus with Poxus himself, but the Blue Dragon, Koraga, whatever his name is.
No, you got it right. That's how it's said.
Really? I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Seeing him at PowerCon, and I was there at but to see him again, kind of refreshing that blue, the paint job that the studio does on these figures. A lot of the times when you get to see them in person, it really kind of blows your mind.
Yeah.
And that figure is amazing. I can tell you, after watching you and Joe last week, I was excited about it previously.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember his name, but he's the green looking predator alien from
Novian Lean.
Oh my gosh.
Dude,
especially when he held that head up on the whatever the new my god,
yeah, so good.
Yeah, like like I love the cosmic side. Mythic is probably always going to be my number one.
Yeah, I like fantasy more.
Yep, I do. The cosmic stuff I absolutely love too, and of course, like I said, opening everyone, it just kind of blows my mind, like how great they are. But that figure and that head, I just love it. And that is one thing I will say that I'm one of the reasons why I'm super excited about Cosmic is because it really is allowing Eric and the studio to reach into some pretty wild stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like I just love it.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. Arachagore, I think, is one that was super popular, that once it arrives is going to continue its popularity. That's one that at shows is going to fly off the shelf because it's a big blue dragon guy. Novian was a bit of a sleeper. That is one that I think when people get in hand, they're going to kick themselves for not getting more. Love that build completely. Joe earlier mentioned the Tuberculi from the Necrodominus wave. That's one.
That's my number one.
Oh, that's so good.
That is my number one. It's just so scary.
The Tuberculi with the bone wings, like the full bone wings, is absolutely so good. So good.
The Tuberculi looks like something from a nightmare.
Yeah,
like it looks like something that would be chasing you.
Eric.
Yeah. And so that
loves monsters.
And then too, like what you guys, the bone wings being a perfect example, because I absolutely love those, but also the heads, the bone, being able to get those. And I'm super excited about being able to create a pretty scary looking army of those things. Yeah.
It's interesting because excited for all that with the new Ox Crew wave. As much as I love, the skateback creature, and Kern Ray is probably my favorite, the one with the coat and the big, head, almost a camera-like head. But I got to tell you, having kind of played around a little bit with the Ox Crew figures, the Velok figure, that's the ones I'm most excited to get in hand, because those are the ones that I think that I'm going to have the most genuine fun with.
Well, and they're so different.
Yeah,
they're so different. I'm super excited that wave, and I know it's only got a couple days left to order through you guys. That, like, I remember when so I'm sitting there as you guys are revealing them, and my son is messaging me, and he's like, "Oh, Star." I don't know if you ever played StarCraft. Probably not, but
I know what it is.
Okay,
I haven't played it, but I know what it is. Yeah, it's definitely got that vibe.
Oh yeah, which and so it's just so cool that there's going to be so many options and different things that you're going to be able to create and customize, and it's going to be fun to watch. That's for sure.
It is. So Travis, you can hang out for a few minutes after we go off air. You and I get to continue our chat, but we're going to let the audience go for the night because I'm sure they have better things to do than hang out with the two of us, right?
Can I really quick? I want to. I got a little prize I want to send out to someone.
Oh, you want me to bring that up?
Yeah, can you pull that up for me real quick?
I sure can.
And obviously with My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me, we have had a fun little comedy show for a few years now. Although not everybody thinks it's funny. I'm glad.
Episode 300, right? You're coming up on 300.
It's coming up. Yep, it's coming up. It's
by the way, we should mention that if people don't know the My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me podcast, and you found Travis delightful this evening, the podcast is wildly different than Mythic Conversations. It's definitely offensive to nearly everybody who listens. So if you find that enjoyable and you find that funny, give it a shot. If you are easily offended, I would suggest that you just enjoy Travis on my show.
And I would without a doubt agree with that. Even the people that like it are offended by it. So so what I have here is a retailer exclusive. It is the key and the head, which what was the name of this creepy head again, Jeremy?
I told you at the start of the show, what do you remember?
The Forgotten One.
Relic of the Lost Cronin.
Right there. Okay, so I have this, and I would like to give this to one of your listeners. The hard part is I'm going to make sure it's one of my listeners as well.
Okay.
So the question is, and obviously I get to do this fun podcast with the delightful Pete McCarthy, which you will hear at Legion's Con if you are there.
Absolutely.
Yep, the dapper Jeremy DeWitt, who might be the nicest guy you're going to run into at Legion's Con.
Yep. Possible.
And Steve, which if you're not listening to Legion's Cast, you're missing out. It's easily probably the 4th best Mythic Legion podcast out there. So you should check it out because Len rocks it on there. Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. Len is maybe one of the best people in this community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I want to talk about Steve.
Oh, okay.
And
the Lord.
I don't have the comments up on this, so you're gonna have to tell me who wins here. But okay. I need to know 3 of Steve's persona names. So Steve has had multiple personas on our podcast, and I need the names of those personas.
So 3 of the personas that Steve has gone by on the My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me podcast. So I am monitoring the comments. Okay, so we've got 2 that came in, and I'm going to ask you which one you think is the correct answer. We've got Curtis, who said real Steve, the heel in the alpha. That's what he said. But then Dominic said Top G, the alpha, and real Steve.
Man, real Steve, the heel.
And then we've got real Steve, Top G, and heel Steven.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like that might be it because there's real Steve, there's Top G, and there's heel Steve.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of different names because we've got Alpha, we've got Top G. These names are all going around. What do you think the 3 that you were looking for were?
I will tell you right now, I was looking for Top G, Alpha, and real Steve. Heel Steve also would have sufficed here. So you know what? Let's go to the top 2 here.
That would be Curtis Ackerman and Dominic Espinoza.
Two of my favorite people. So I will hook both those guys up if they would please both message me, because if they do not message me, I am going to forget and not send either of them anything. So please message me, preferably on Facebook Messenger or Snapchat. I love Snapchat. But
so I will say this, that I think for creative answers, I like Big Dubs the best. Ravishing Steve Bisciotti, Jumping Gemini, and Val Venus.
Oh my God, I hope he does not go with a Val Venus angle ever. Holy crap.
I want to see the Ravishing Steve Bisciotti angle.
I'm when we go off the air, I'm gonna send you a video. And you are never gonna forget it.
Oh my goodness.
Thank
So
you for having me, Jeremy.
One thing I do want to bring up before I let everybody go is I just want to bring up, I talked about this last week. This is the Kickstarter that's going on right now for the Meta Travelers Legendary line. It is $125,000 is their funding goal. They are climbing there. They are at almost $93,000. So I'm bringing this up for a couple reasons. Number one, these guys are going to be at Legions Con with some of these figures on display. These figures were sculpted, painted, and prototyped and everything by Four Horsemen Studios. They will be at Legions Con this year. They will also be my guests on Mythic Conversations next Wednesday. So next Wednesday, we're going to have them on. I really would love them to get funded, but selfishly, I really want them to get funded on my show, because when I had Chris on for his D13 Biblical Adventures line, we literally funded live on the air during Mythic Conversations. If we could find a way to do that again for this, that would mean that I'm magic. That would mean I am literally magic, and people would be knocking down my door to come on my show for their Kickstarters, because they would think that I have some kind of magic voodoo that I'm able to work there. So one way or another, we're going to talk to them next week, and I'm super excited for that.
That'll be awesome.
Have you checked that Kickstarter out?
I have. I haven't backed it yet, and I'm still planning on it.
Yeah. I've had a chance to see the figures actually in the studio, so I've got that firsthand experience with them. I'm pretty excited for them. The fact that they do have some modularity, I'm looking forward to some mixing and matching and stuff like that. But I will leave all of that conversation for next week. Travis, thank you very, very much for joining me this evening. As I said, stick around for a minute. I'm going to play my little outro music, and then I'll come back and chat with you. And everybody else, I will talk to you next week on another episode of Mythic Conversations. Thanks, everyone.